as well. We'll do our very best to make it fun and interactive. But why don't we start with introducing the two authors? Dave, would you mind starting?
Of course. Good morning or afternoon for those of you in Europe, I think. My name is Day Kibbilds. I live in London, Ontario, so I'm pretty close to you, Justin. And my first job was automotive German company. So I worked at Hella, Martin. So that's interesting. So email has been like a through line, even from my Hella days through all my jobs and my responsibilities. I started at Hella, then I moved to the US in higher education and oversaw a lot of that work, the email to prospective students, the email to parents and all of that. Then I moved to Cornell. That's where Ashley and I met, and I was responsible for email there, soliciting donations from alumni and friends. And then moved to where I am now, which is London, worked in undergraduate recruitment here. But 2 years ago, I left the actual campus side to work at an agency. I work at Ology, which is a marketing branding agency focused on education. And I'm currently the vice president of research and strategy there. But yeah, email is my baby, I would say.
Hey, that's great.
My job is, right?
Yeah, that's great. And
Yay.
then Ash.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. I am in upstate New York. I work for Cornell University. I'm a senior marketing director there. Day and I met working at Cornell. We had 1 year together.
1 year, that's all it took.
One very special year together. And then we've been speaking at conferences together. We were first conference wives, and now we're going to be book wives. So we both are talking about email, I think, in a really complimentary way. I am I'm your science nerd. I'm the one who loves the data and why things are working and trying to understand, the psychology of persuasion and all of these kind of behavioral science things. And Day is the most tactical person I've ever met. She just will tell you what to do. Like, just do it this way. This is the way it's going to work. But I can be her hype girl and back that up with the science and why. So yeah, we have like really complementary styles, and we came together to write this book that I have in my hand.
She has it.
I just got it last week. So we got our little set of author copies. So these are very first copies, and it has been a journey, but we're excited to share just some of the stuff that we think will be interesting to you all. That's in the book, and then any kinds of like email questions. You can ask us anything about the book process. So excited.
Yeah, and we'd also take advice to like what happens after book launch. Like, I'd love some advice there.
Very
if you
good.
have any.
Very good. All right, so that sounds like we have 3 things on the menu. Thanks, Ash, for setting it up. Well, why don't we start with what's in the book?
Cool. So I'm going to share my screen if I can figure out that. Here we go. Let's see.
Yes, number of sent and received emails per day.
Per day, worldwide, both personal and professional emails. If you feel like you've been getting more email than ever, yes, you have. It is true. This is real. This is happening. And this is projected out to 2025. It's going to keep growing. This chart was made before AI became so embedded in all of our tools. And so I think this number is only going to get exacerbated by AI and that productivity that people are feeling in the email space. The other data set that I think is really fun to share is this one. It's going to be harder for you to see, but I'll just explain that this is the way behaviors have changed in email. And I can remember in my first real job sitting down at a desktop computer, and I didn't have email on my phone, and I could read all 12 emails that I got. And that was it, right? And then I would go and do my job, do my real job. Yeah. And now what's really fun about this data set, this is situations in which workers in the United States are checking their personal email. And then it's broken down by generation, which is fun because you can see that the millennials are more comfortable checking their email while they are on the phone with somebody else, or on vacation, or in bed, or on the toilet. And then the
Yeah.
older generations are just like, they're doing it too, but they're catching up. So this has really changed, right? Like more email, how we're receiving it, all the ways that we're interacting with it have changed. But so much of how we communicate is still the way that I remember writing like those early email newsletters with like a masthead and like little tiny boxes to make it look like a newspaper. So this is kind of what I just wanted to start by grounding us in. And then Day, why don't you talk about this other side of it?
Yeah, so we like, at the same time, we like to say this, right? As emails, obviously volume has gone up, we still have 24 hours in a day, the same 24 hours in a day. So we're still, like as Janika said in the chat, it's getting more stressful because we don't have more time for more email. So the read time has gone down as well. So Litmus puts out reports like this every year. And this is the last time they updated this read rate, which is basically, I think, on average, how much time do people spend actually reading an email in their inbox. But then the other thing that they found in the same study is that that's what happens when people actually choose to read. But not everyone chooses to read. Before reading happens, there's actually this kind of filter, this glance and skim filter that people do to decide whether this thing is going to be relevant to them or not, and if they're going to spend the 9 seconds on it or not. So what's really interesting, and this is something, Ashley said earlier, like I've always told people what to do, like you have to make sure your email is, people can skim it in 2 seconds. And then I saw this data set and I'm like, oh my God, I knew this, but here's the proof. So what's really interesting here is that almost 30% of the people who receive your emails glance at it for 2 seconds, and that's it. Those are the 2 seconds they use to determine whether they're going to pay attention to it or not. And that's if you clear the inbox hurdle, which is another filter that you have to clear, right? So our book basically is the premise of how to write email is every single email, you have to make sure it is glanceable, skimmable in under 2 seconds. So 2 seconds or less. And so that's the foundation of kind of that kind of tactical part of the book.
Yeah. And we thought we would share with this group some of the user experience research that we used to help get us to that 2 seconds. Like how can we solve this problem if we only have 2 seconds? And Day is brilliant. She found this heat map study that you might be familiar with, that's like 20 plus years old. And she was like, this web study, like maybe this applies to email too. So I'm not gonna steal your thunder, Day. Why don't you explain what you did?
So this was, when I shared, I worked in enrollment. So this was at Penn State University in 2011 or something like that. And I suddenly inherited the entire email operation for the university. So Penn State is huge. It has 20 campuses in Pennsylvania, 70,000 applications every year. We had to send a lot of email. And I inherited the CRM team, the email team. That's right. Good job, Dennis. And I was like, it's not working. It's not effective. Like I'm obsessed with effective. And so I started doing some research online and I found this, as Ashley said. So this is from the Nielsen Norman Group. They do a lot of UX research. I'm sure you know them. And what I found is that they did this study in 2004, and it was reading pattern online. So they put the little camera on people's helmet with camera, looking at the pupil, seeing what the eyes do and how they scan content. And so this heat map version you see on the left is what happens when users are shown text on a simple background, right? So like black text on a white background, just text in paragraph form on a simple website. Now, obviously, design has evolved. So web design has evolved. We now understand user interface, we have content design, we have all these sorts of things that have helped evolve reading patterns. But the connection that I made back then was, for a lot of the emails that we send, we don't have this super extensive, super smart design. We just have plain text on a simple background. So I wonder if the eyes in an email behave the same way. And I started testing it. I started testing it with my templates. I started testing it with my team. And that's when we found that it really, really, really works. So that's kind of like the foundation of the templates I shared in the chat. And then the other thing I realized is, so for email specifically, that F pattern, that heat map version F pattern works really well. Nielsen Norman Group has since updated this study, so they've done it on mobile, and it's very similar. There's a little bit more scrolling, but it's kind of it's like a combination of F pattern and layer cake. And then for languages that are right to left reading languages, so not left to right like English is, the F is flipped. That's so cool. And then the other thing I found in email is this layer cake pattern you see on the right. Most of our newsletter templates, like Ashley said earlier, like it's the boxes, right? Like we have this story, this story, this story. So everything is like a heading, a little snippet, a link, a heading, a little snippet, a link. So we basically have adopted this principle or this kind of research on the F pattern and the layer cake pattern to create email templates that people can scan in under 2 seconds.
So the templates that Day put there in the link, there, these two, F pattern and layer cake, are the two reading patterns that we are using to know exactly where the eyes are going to go in 2 seconds. And they look something like this. We're not going to go through all of it because we want to make sure we can answer questions, but they look something like this, where there's black text where the person is going to see when they're doing the glance, and then the gray text that they just will not see. And so what we're teaching is to make sure that you put your most important messages exactly where the eyes are going to go. So they cannot help but see your message in those 2 seconds.
And like everyone uses that line for something else. That first line is the most wasted line in all of email. I hope this email finds you well, or how was your weekend, or right?
So good to see you yesterday. And then you tell them the thing, right? But all the time I was like, oh, I don't know. What does this person want? Right? They're glancing and they're just like, what is this email about? What does this person want? And if you don't put it right where their eyes are looking, they're confused, they're frustrated. You're just trying to get through your email. And so this is the hack, everybody. This is the trick. So you've got this template and then this other template for newsletters. If you have more than one thing that you need to say, what the eyes are going to do is they're going to skip the headings. And then if you have links that are stylized like we have here, the eyes will go heading, link, heading, link, heading, link. And many alumni newsletters and higher ed newsletters and things that I look at have like important update, campus news, you know, like these descriptions
of headings are meaningless.
Do not say anything. And so if we are more descriptive, and that's the other piece, if we're much more descriptive in our headings and our links, then people are going to receive the messages that we're trying to send, and they'll be able to do that in that 2 second glance.
Yeah, the other thing to point out with this is the learn more habit or the read more habit in all these calls to action is terrible, actually, because if people are scanning, like they're glancing in 2 seconds and they just see learn more, learn more, learn more, learn more about what, right? So it's really important that the links actually say what you're learning more about or what you're clicking there to do. Because again, in those 2 seconds, we know the eyes are going to go heading, link, heading, link. So if they only see the link, are they going to know what you want them to do? That's the test.
Yay. So that's lots of stuff in our book. And the templates are at the website, and that's what our faces look like.
Excellent. All right, that was fun. Great. So that's what's in the book. How is it organized? Like if you open the table of contents?
Oh yeah.
Let me reference.
I have a PDF if we want to do a show and tell.
Yeah. You know, we talk about like why email matters. There's certainly the design and formatting is in there. Lots of strategy, how to work with stakeholders, measuring, audience-centric operations. Yeah, this is kind of the cheat that we have in our introduction. You know, I think Day says, if you read nothing else, read chapters 5 and 6. And that's where we're getting really specific about how exactly to write.
Yeah, life-changing.
Yes.
This is the tone of the book, everyone. This is, it's just like us right now. This is exactly how we wrote the book. It's not serious at all. Yeah, so this kind of describes it. And so a lot of what we shared just now is really a little bit of this foundation of email, these stats and data and research. And then 5 and 6 are really, really tactical. And so it's the templates. And then the other UX, the other thing we borrowed from UX is readability and like natural language. And the 7th to 9th grade reading level, because it's just so easy to scan, and understand what the person's telling you and like what you need to do, and it leads to action and all that. So that's all in there as well. So
great. So all right, I think that was part 1, what's in the book, as it says right here. Anybody has any questions, comments, reflections on what's in the book? If not, I would say let's move to the second part. But yeah, here's one. Ash, would you mind?
What is the thinking about the filtering process audiences go through before deciding to read? I think one thing that we haven't mentioned is that so much of that filtering happens before they open the email, and as you open your inbox, and what do? You might think that you're looking at subject lines, because everybody who's in a email writing capacity has been agonizing over subject lines for the last decade. But it's the sender name. That's the first hurdle that you need to clear. It shows up bigger in your inbox, it's bolder, it's bigger, and bigger. And so you're going down, who's in my inbox first. That's the first thing you're doing. And there's a great debate. Is it supposed to come from a person or an organization? What's the answer?
The answer is it depends. Who is your reader going to know, right? Who's your reader going to know? So especially for us in higher education, it's very common that emails get sent out with like the dean's name or the president's name. And, when you think about an alum of a university who hasn't been there in 20 years, are they going to know who the current dean is of the college they went to? No, they're not. So it has to be, because it's the most important first filter, it has to be the entity that the reader will recognize. Sometimes that will be a person, sometimes that's the organization, and it can change over time, but that's the very first thing, the very first hurdle.
Yep. And then with subject line, we've been breaking the hearts of writers all over the place.
Everywhere.
We tell them what happens in the subject line, because they have spent years crafting these very clever, very cute, very fun subject lines, and they do not work. No more
gimmicks. No more gimmicks. No more tricks.
Subject lines. We can't be cute in email subject lines anymore. We have to just tell people what's in the email. Yeah. Because that's what they're like. Who is it from? What is this email about? And if we're doing this thing that we've done for years, where we're trying to kind of entice people, say something enticing. Ask them a question so that they open it. No, we don't. We can't do that anymore. We just have to tell them what's in the email. And the technology filters that are being applied, and that will continue to be applied, because remember, billions of emails, like, we need help with this. So technology is going to try to help. They're going to be matching what that subject line is to the content of the email. And if it's not the same, you're going to get put in junk. So
promotion at best.
Or promotion, right? It's so even more important that
don't play. Just say the thing.
What we say is that it's a summary of what's in the email. Can you say what's in your email in 6 words? That's the new challenge for the writers. They're not like that excited about it though when we tell them that. They're like, we want to be clever, but
save your cleverness for making it short. So the other question in the chat is if we should put emojis in the subject line, and that's another thing that we break hearts about. Yes, you should. We love emojis. Like, I like to say, I'm wearing emojis on my ears right now. I don't know if you can see. This is the little heart emoji on an envelope. But we love emojis, but there's a lot of problems with emojis. So we like to use them when they add value, and not to actually carry any meaning. So emojis should never replace words, because they might not show up, or they might be misinterpreted, or if someone's using a screen reader, every emoji has a hard-coded name you can't change, and it's not going to say what you want it to mean, right? So to me, this little cute envelope with a heart is an email. but the hard-coded word, like the hard-coded name, is love letter. And it's not, I mean, I guess every email should be a love letter after you read the book, but so we like them if they add value. So we define value as context. So if you're sending like a date, a little calendar emoji is nice. If you're sending a free download or something, a little gift emoji is nice. That's context. Graduation email, a graduation cap, that's context. Or emotion. If you want to convey emotion like excitement and you want to do the confetti cannons, or you are sending like appreciation and you want to add a heart, that's emotion, and that's nice. So we reserve them kind of for that use. We don't use them to replace words. And then not every time, because that feels gimmicky. Like if every email somebody gets from you has an emoji in the subject line, it's like, what is, like, who wrote this, right? And then the other thing is we like them at the very end of the subject line. And this is one of the things that when I see, especially AI generated emails, when I see like what ChatGPT spits out, it loves to put the emojis at the front of the sentence. And the problem with that is, again, screen readers. If someone only has 2 seconds, right, and it's being read to them, and the first couple of things that they hear are a bunch of emoji hard-coded names that have nothing to do with what you're telling them, right? That's jarring. The other thing is, of course, it could just not show up at all, right? So this is funny, when we were actually going back and forth with our editor on the book has emojis. We're millennials, what can we say? And they forced us to use Microsoft Word, like actual hard, like downloaded files, not in the cloud on our computers. And it wouldn't, like the emojis wouldn't load. And I was like, this is exactly why. Like emojis are nice if they're not interrupting your meaning. So put them at the end. And then the last thing we like to say about emojis are just like social interpretations, right? Mm-hmm. You need to be very careful, especially all of you very multicultural international folks. Emojis mean different things to different generations and different countries. And so if you're not 100% sure that it's not going to be misinterpreted, just leave it out, right? So there's like some really famous ones like eggplant. Probably don't want to put that anywhere. There's I think Ashley is working with a client right now, and you had to edit one out. They wanted to put, it was like the 3 water drops. Do not put that. Don't put that anywhere. Ashley has some peach trees in her backyard. So if any of you subscribe to Ashley's newsletter, she's putting peach emojis all over her newsletter, but she knows what she's doing, y'all. She knows. So we like to say, just be careful. I look them up on urbandictionary.com just to see like how common is the alternate interpretation of this thing.
All right, that was a little bit more than a yes or no question, but thank you very much for that. So in the interest of time, can you give a brief take on the writing process? I think I got the sense that it wasn't so painful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're very organized. We're very organized.
Yeah. So we had been talking about email for a while. And if you have a subject that you feel really comfortable in and you're thinking about maybe this could be a book, one of the things that I had included in my email talks that I had been doing for, I don't know, a year or so, but I had gotten in front of hundreds of marketers talking about email. And one of the things I was doing each time was I had a poll where I asked them what their biggest email marketing challenge was. And that was one of the resources that we used going into the book writing process. We had a list of what all of the challenges were. We probably also at the time could have asked ChatGPT for a list of like, what are all of the pain points? Like, what are all of the challenges in this space? But we had the data set from people that we were talking to. We also used ChatGPT as an assistant in our writing process. But that was a good starting point for us to say like, okay, we understand the landscape and what the pain points are based on what people have told us. So let's make sure we address those in the book. What else did we do, Day?
Mm-hmm. We forced ourselves to go on a retreat. We booked an Airbnb in Montreal, just me and Ashley, and we got wine and cheese, and we put basically all these topics from all these sources on Post-it notes, and we put them up on a wall. Like we did our own little workshop. And then that was the first task. Then we grouped them into what we thought could be chapters. And then we took that and created our outline from it. And then from that outline, we used Basecamp actually to manage ourselves. And we put in, every chapter, gave ourselves a 2-week time period to write it. We split it 50-50. And we just got on this kind of roll of writing, just write it. Don't worry about anything else, just write it. And then after that is when we started looking for a publisher. So, but having the manuscript already when we started that process was so powerful. And just writing it without worrying about anything else is, I think, the reason that we were able to write it so quickly. We wrote it in like 3 months, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And we're coming up here on time, so I want to make sure we cover the third and final part as well, and that's the actual book launch.
Yes.
When is the book due out?
August 20th. August 20th. So, Tuesday.
There is something about if anybody wants the book, buy it on that day. Is that how it goes?
We would love to start off as a bestseller. So this is how this works. They're counting your sales per day. And so if you have a big day, you're going to jump up the charts. And so if you're interested in the book, you want to mark your calendar for August 20th and be part of that with us. We're hoping to have a really big day. We're going to be together the night before. We're going to throw ourselves our book party that we're calling our book wedding. We're getting book married. And it's
like a wedding.
The next morning. So
amazing.
Yeah, we'd love to stay in touch, and looking forward to hearing your feedback after you read the book.
That's great. Thank you so much, both of you. We did it right on time. Really appreciate it. Book looked great too. What a milestone. It's fun to be able to follow this book writing project along. And if anybody has any ideas to fill this more with life and get perhaps Ash or Day out to speak in your organizations or on a call like this, do reach out. I'll make sure to include how to get in touch in the blog post that summarizes this, and share the links, the table of content, and the recording as well. And I think that's all we had. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, folks.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.